Ladies and gentlemen, it's August 2nd, 2010. This is Day 9 Daily number 157, and I have missed you. I've missed you guys so much. I haven't done a daily in my room in a long time. And being alone and talking excitedly is my comfort zone. So for any of you who didn't know, I did this gigantic-ass Starcraft 2 launch party that had 1 million different communities involved. And I did that last Monday with the kind and lovely JP McDaniel. And that entire event was like a 15-day-long complete crisis. Like, I'm still trying to get all the video encoding done. I actually just gave it to someone else to do because I just can't do it anymore. But the King of the Beta videos are up for that. You should check that out. Yeah, it's totally awesome. And I wanted to let all you know, I'm going to be doing a post-mortem of the event, just talking about what it was like and why it was the most stressful thing I've ever been through, and how it should have really been called the Everybody But Day 9 Countdown Party, because everyone else made it possible. I mean, even like JP, who I see over there on the stream window. JP, I didn't give him any prompt at all. Okay, he was my co-caster for the event. I told him nothing. Like, literally, he's like, hey, Sean, so what's going to be the first segment? Like, who's sponsoring? And I was just like, because I was so stressed out. So he was just like, oh yeah, cool, no problem. Literally, no prep. I would just turn to him during the cast and say something and be like, please understand that I have no idea what's going on. He was like, oh yeah, no problem. He was like way more calm than I was up there on the stage. But I got through it. And that's why the last week it kind of took off, because I'd been up for like 48 hours at that point. So I had to crash. And now I am back, and now I'm alive. And I'm ready to do the daily. Oh, I'm so pumped. So for any of you who are first-timers, because I'm sure some of you are first-timers, especially with new StarCraft 2 coming out, this is the Day 9 Daily. It's not so much a focus on tournament casts and getting excited about insane plays. It's more about trying to be a better gamer and helping people sort of unveil the mystery of real-time strategies and think about some funky situations or just some standard situations, so that way you can learn how to get on those placement matches and snap some necks in half. So let's go ahead and dive right into this game. It's gonna have to be fast-forwarded a little bit, but you'll see why. You'll start to understand why. Now this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler. This is from the IEM, the Intel Extreme Masters Qualifier in Germany, which I am the shoutcaster for. So I will be going to Germany on August 17th for that. So I'm quite excited in that regard. And this is Mardow playing against Inuh. I don't really know how to say that, but I'm just going to say Inuh. And of course, Mardow's playing under ATN Mardow, which I always read as Attention Mardow. So this is a game that they played in one of the qualifiers. Now this again is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, but the game is 2 hours long. So we're obviously going to have to breeze through some segments to it. So obviously we have Mardow as the Zerg player in the top right, and we do have Inuh in the bottom left as the red Terran. And in a lot of my dailies, you'll hear me say things like, okay, let's question the supply depot placement, okay, Overlord scouting patterns and all that good jazz. But I want to remind you, this game is 2 hours freaking long. So I kind of need to sort of rocket through that a little bit faster, but it's okay because I have my notes. I have notes of things I want to say during this, so that way it can be as educational as possible. Pazam. So let's bounce right back into it. Resuming now. So the first part of this game, and again, this is going to be a spoiler. If any of you want to see this game yourself, go look at some of the replay packages and just close this and watch this after the fact, because I know people hate spoilers. But anyways, so in this game, we're first going to talk about the normalcy of what's going on, because this is going to be a very, very normal beginning. And then what we're going to see is Zerg at one point starts to slowly not adapt. Our good friend Mardow kind of just sticks to what he had in mind, what was sort of a typical, ordinary mid-game style. And just he's going to continue that. And then we're going to get into a lot of weird, funky late-game decisions in the end. Fortunately, I don't actually have to do 3 dailies. I just pick one game that's 2 hours long, and I divide it into 3 40-minute segments. I'm so smart. So, first we're going to look at the early parts of the game. And I'm going to repeat this a lot. This is the normal part, right? Oh, look how normal that is, the command center, the refinery. Oh, yes. Spawning pool. Oh, extractor before spawning pool. Why is that? So we can probably get some speed up. Now, I actually had to spend like 20 minutes letting this game load up. So don't mind that we're kind of zipping through this because we want to get broad strokes down. Like, okay, there's some Reaper harass coming up. Okay, cool. And then builds the factory there. And neat. So look, there's a little bit of scouting, but it's going to have to back off. And now here's something that I want to just gripe on at ×4 speed. I might even have to go to ×8. Actually, what I might even do is just lower this window and zip through it by manually clicking. But on this map especially, a lot of Zerg players really want to get the Roach Warren and the speed Zerglings up right away. Just because there's a lot that can be thrown at you, and given the fact that there's this sort of funky ledge where you have to be able to deal with siege tanks, there's this open space where you have to deal with Marauder Hellion pushes, you have this ramp, you kind of have a swing around side. You want to have enough units that can just deal with all that early obnoxiousness. So of course, this mix is very good. For another example of this, go check out QXC against Idra in the King of the Beta semifinals. In Game 2, you get the chance to see Idra open like this. I'm full of spoilers today, but definitely go check those games out because they're awesome. So, okay, what are we seeing right now? We're seeing an interesting mix of stuff come out from Inuh. He has the Hellions here. These are obviously space control. And again, let's just do a big, broad stroke of what it is we're looking at this stage in the game. Just big, broad, general stuff. Because again, 2-hour-long game. Want to make sure we hit all the good stuff. In most builds, in fact, most reasonable builds, you have one set of units that I call the units that do zoning, or they're just the active units. Hellions, they can get up here, they can poke at anything at the front, they can prevent any drones from moving out, they can prevent any Zerglings from moving out, they force all these roaches back, they control space. If you're Zerg and you have a whole bunch of Mutalisks around the map, speak of the devil, look, it's a spire. If Zerg has a bunch of Mutalisks, what does Terran have to do? Terran has to hole up, he has to make turrets, he has to get anti-air there. Do Mutalisks help zone the opponent? They help contain that Terran, just sort of pin him back. So, now if this were Shoutcast, I would of course be shitting my pants. Like, oh, Hellions in the main, they have 2 life, can he get any drones? Oh, and I would freak out and apparently sound like a manga character at the end. But, in this game, just broad general strokes. What is the general mix of this Terran player? Alright, well this is kind of interesting. He's getting, looks like Tech Lab on here. I would imagine he's going to be getting some upgrades. Cool little wall off, has some tanks here. Getting more factories. He has a starport so we can get some Vikings. As we can see, there's this Viking that's being a little bit active around the map. It's going to be able to pick this guy off. And the Zerg did stay alive into Mutalisks. And I literally think that that is the correct analysis. I don't think that there's a whole lot of sophistication that you need to get what's going on here. This is literally stay alive till you get Mutalisks. And the Zergling speed and the Roaches were all part of step stay alive. So let's ×8 this bad boy. And he's making things. So this is pretty typical for Zerg. He uses his stay alive units to do stuff like kill the destructible rocks. Remember how you heard me talk about the Hellions as those very active units? Oh, look, here's the Mutalisks. Now, if you were like a brand new player like Silver Bronze, what you see here is what you think your Mutalisk's job is. You think your Mutalisk job is to kill SCVs and kill vulnerable stuff. But as time goes on, this was absolutely the case in Brood War, aka B-Dub. In B-Dub, you would have these players who were Terran and would just close all their buildings together, place turrets in intelligent locations, and as a result, it was very difficult for these Mutalisks to pierce in and do the damage that they needed to do. So their job, the actual job of the Mutalisks, is not necessarily to kill SCVs, it's to force things like turrets to get built. When my Starcraft freezes. Okay, no, yeah, there we go. It's to do things like force turrets to get built when you don't want them to be built, when you want to save money for other things. Because, I mean, just count up this money. Okay, there's 300, 400, 500. That's what, 3 tanks worth of minerals right there just out the window. Sure, you'll get the chance to pick off some things. You will rarely ever get the chance to pick off these orbital commands. But, of course, the role of this is the zoning aspect, is to force all this stuff into some overly defensive position. And honestly, if I'm ever seeing a replay, yeah, what the Mutalisks do, that's interesting in a tournament, but in an analysis, I want to come back here. And what is Zerg doing? I want to check the production. Oh, look, I see some drones getting made up here. Oh, yes, he's doing upgrades because he's buying all this time with these Mutalisks. Great. This is why we love Mutalisks against any race, in particular Terran, because they have a lot of slow anti-air. The Thor is very slow. The Vikings aren't that effective against Mutalisks. They're decent enough. But yeah, yes indeed. And then some Baraxen going down by Inuh, some expanding going down. And let's just take a look at our resource station. Oh yes, Zerg, oh my god. In a beautiful position, 108 for 77, getting up another expansion. And as we can see, we have another drone going up here to get the gold. Doesn't that look great? Now I just want to point out how not phenomenal Vikings are against Mutalisks. They're pretty good. I would never say don't build Vikings against Mutalisks, but they're not amazing. So if you're a Zerg player who's been cowering away, you can get a little bit aggressive. Slush especially is a very good Zerg player who's really responsible about just punishing you for getting any of those Vikings. So we're still in our early stage. I'm constantly looking over at the clock to make sure I don't go over because I don't want to accidentally go as long as the replay. But what I'm starting to see now, oh, look at this mix. This is always the key highlight point to any game. What the hell was Terran's mid-game plan? What the hell was any of these players' mid-game plan? For Zerg, it looks like to get a lot of roaches, to get these double ups, and to, you know, oh, look, we have some burrowing going on with the tunneling claws. It's basically roaches, upgrades, and expanding. Terran is a lot of tanks, as we can see since these are reactors, a lot of Marines, and medevacs to heal the Marines, as we can see getting churned out there. This mix of Marine tank medevac is something that we've seen Maka do a lot recently. It's a very Korean style of play. Works great against ground. Just in general, a phenomenal mix. Mutalisks get burned up by the Marines as well. It's good against the mid-game style of play for Zerg. Even against Banelings, you can just run away and be in just a good control spot where your tanks blast through them. Because remember, tanks have smart fire. If you target fire one Baneling, they will, you know, not all blast that one. They'll sort of spread their firing out, so that's good. Notice these Mutalisks are still kind of doing their job. All these tanks have to cluster around the turret. Ideally, we'd like some up here, some pulled back, but this is a little bit more safe here. And Mardow, he's continuing to get queens, going to the production tab, getting a whole lot of everything going on here. So this is what I would call a fairly typical game, where the Zerg has a monstrous lead. Right, look at that, 150 food, 150 food, 215 food. I don't know why I repeated 150 food twice. It just was fun for my mouth to do that. Okay, so coming up here to the battle. Oh no, look, this nice mix. Now, see, this is what a lot of Zerg players do. I'm going to get the set of units that will hold off this push, because if I can hold off this push, hey, I have this expansion up here. Hey, I have this other expansion over here. Easy peasy, got it won. And of course, here's an excellent mix. Would have liked to see speed on those Banelings or perhaps drop on the Overlords. Perfect. Great. Just phenomenal job there by our good friend, Mardow. That was beautiful. Look at that. Still about 135 to 80. That is just fantastic. Now, I want you to just note just a general similarity, because again, this is the normal part of the game. General similarity to these plays, there was a set of units that did the zoning, and then there was a big build-up. And for the Terran, it was Hellions doing a little bit of control, and then the expand and the tanks and the Marines. On the Zerg half of things, we had Mutalisks doing the control, and it was Roaches and Banelings and Zerglings. Very typical. In fact, with a lot of plays, I will look at them and someone would say, what is the criticism you have of this play? Is there a way to make it better? I'd say you don't really have any active units. You just sit and build up and move out, and I would prefer something that does a little bit more hurting in there. Yeah, so very typical. So now what do we have? We have a Zerg player who's in the lead by a lot. Now this is now I have to speed this up by a ton, because what we are about to see is the act of forcing the game out. Zerg clearly had an advantage. We even see more drones being transferred. We see a hive. We see Ultralisks. Anyone who says that Zerg is a disadvantage is actually lying to you, is being a deceitful dude. So what do you do when you're behind? There's a few strategies. There's a few general trends.